Monica, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to have you here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
It's great I love finding people on LinkedIn that are doing really cool things and then inviting them onto the pod and finding willing participants to talk about their passions. So I'm delighted to have you here to talk about your Dine and Dink Pickle Park, which I think is just like awesome. And I'm really excited to dive into like why you're doing it, like the sort of operating hypothesis and like, entertainment and the trend of pickleball and the trend of looking for third spaces and all these kinds of things. I'm very excited to dive into this pod with you today. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
And so I always ask the guest, when they come on the pod, to introduce themselves, because I find that I have a habit of botching introductions. So Monica, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and most importantly, how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. So my name is Monica Challingsworth, and I'm one of the co-founders. It's actually Dink and Dine Pickle Park.
Oh,
and
I'm an idiot. Oh my gosh.
It's still new, and it's a fun name to get used to. I've been working on the Dink and Dine project for about over 2.5 years now. And prior to that, I owned a restaurant consulting company called Eustress and Demeter, and we focused on building incremental revenue programs, training, operations for some pretty large restaurant groups. So it's exciting to kind of come from the consultant side and now be able to take, everything that we've done for the last, 7 years with my company, but many years prior to that with working for others to kind of learn all of the ins and outs and what we see that works and what we see that doesn't. So it's nice to kind of shift over to that side and really take, everything that we've built over the years and the amazing team I've had with Eustress now over into Dink and Dine to build that out. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of awesome. And I mean, it's such a trend. Tell me about how you landed on Dink and Dine in the first place. Like, what was the sort of like, what was the line in Pulp Fiction where he goes, "What alcoholics call a moment of clarity"? Like what was the moment of clarity?
We my original partner, his name's Dave. Dave and I were talking kind of like the height of COVID. I mean, at the time I had COVID, and we were talking about what people were looking for and kind of that lonely feeling, and we knew that COVID wasn't going to last forever, and you found yourself, stuck in the house again and kind of daydreaming about what it was like to be out. And, we were talking about some clients that we were working with and kind of made a little thought of like, well, wouldn't it be nice to, do this right the first time in a way and just really create something massive. And we were talking about Top Golf and, all the great things that they do. And Dave is a big racket sports person and plays pickleball. Him and his son are actually some of like the top in the nation at, doing their competitive everything. And so I myself had never played pickleball at the time and had heard about it and knew that people were loving it. And so we just kind of thought about, what was going on in our personal lives and what we were looking for. And everything just started to really blossom from there. So we put together an amazing team of what we call our Eatertainment Dream Team.
Love that phrase.
Thank you. So everybody has owned or owns restaurant consulting companies, kind of has their very unique special lane of understanding, sportstainment marketing, the recipe development side, operations development, and, the whole how to really take something this large and bring it to life and scale it. So it's like I said, it's been 2.5 years and we've been really cranking away at this, and we're now getting close to opening our Mesa, Arizona location, which will be our first one in February. So
that's so awesome. I mean, I'm so excited for you because you're kind of in the end game now. You got like 8 months to go or 9 months to go, which is kind of like amazing. And it's like, when I think about it, because you were just chatting offline there, that you're right next to the university, you're right next to ASU as well. So like, I mean, you got a whole volume of people just on your doorstep. And coupled with like pickleball, just like through the roof. I actually one of my best friends, his now wife. It's funny, we're all at that age now where I have to refer to people as wives as opposed to girlfriends. And she was a professional tennis player, or at least college NCAA, and then I think try to be a pro. She'll hate me when she listens to this pod because she's like, "You're botching who I am," but I know that like is like she is like my Mrs. Pickleball. You know what I mean? Like as in New York City, like obsessed with it in pro leagues, and it's really just kind of taken on a life of its own over the last probably since COVID. Would you say like what? It's kind of become like the sport du jour for, do I say elder millennials now? Like people in their 30s? It's like, is that who we are?
I mean, that's so funny, but I guess, the other day too, I was cracking up because Taylor Swift posted a picture of her playing pickleball. And then the next day, Target had this whole line of pickleball gear. And I'm like, well, it is official. It is definitely now. We have the Swifties involved and Target involved, that it's not going anywhere. So, and we get the question a lot, is it a trend? And, I truly believe it isn't. I mean, I think that it's very easy to learn to play. It's very social. We have, and you have like the different kind of players. Like I am what we would call like a beer in hand player. So I'm there to have fun, have a White Claw, just kind of hit around. I mean, it is a great workout, but it's also more like, I love the social aspect of it. And then, and then we have Dave and our other partners that we go out to play. I mean, and they are destroying one another. So it's fun to see, the competitive side of it, the fun side of it. And, when we were thinking about this concept, we aren't like a pickleball membership type of concept. We are very heavy food and beverage. So the majority of our revenue is coming from the food and beverage component. So we have multiple, it's kind of like a food hall type concept, plus a full sit down restaurant, a more elevated restaurant actually inside of our pickleball courts. That is kind of like if you think of like a luxury poolside bar, like out of Miami, you see those all the time. It's kind of that idea, but inside of our indoor courts. And then a big park area, and it's dog friendly, and we'll have a stage and events and all kinds of, really fun things that are, I think especially in, Mesa being close to the university, but also being close to, so many corporate buildings. We'll have event space and a great new like mixed seating, mixed use coffee juice type area too. So we're really thinking through like, what it is that the community is going to, look for and how they can go multiple times a week, as opposed to it feeling like, maybe like, for example, like a Top Golf, it's hard to go a couple times a month because it does get expensive, and, you're really there to play and to eat and drink, where what we love is, you can just come in and enjoy the park and, bring a date, bring your dog, sit down, enjoy the music. And if you didn't want to spend a dime, you don't have to. So,
yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And like, it kind of goes back. It's actually funny. I actually played 5-iron golf on Sunday morning. Yeah. I was like, I want to play golf and it's raining, and I'm going to go there. Need and want states. But I think about it in the sense you talk about, like, say, entertainment, because that's kind of essentially the concept is the entertainment. Like, there is pickleball for people who have a White Claw in the hand, or for people who are very like competitive. And so you're kind of able to expand like that sort of like audience who really wants to, you know what I mean? Like you got your social and you got your kind of competitive folks.
Sure.
But like you said, you got your juice bars, you got your actual full service restaurant in there. Like, and I think you kind of nailed it with saying, but if you just want to come and hang out and bring your dog, you also can do that.
Yes.
So it's kind of creating a sort of almost like a public park, except it's not a public park. You know what I mean? And I think this is something that you kind of alluded to when we were chatting a couple weeks ago. You did a panel before RLC, and you started talking about third place. Like, what is the new third place? And this concept very much, I just shouldn't call it a concept, like your company. Very much. Yeah. Like, it's not open yet.
It feels like it is. Trust me.
Is like a third space. So do you want to like a third place? Do you want to tell like the audience what you mean by third place? If people have not heard that phrase before, what is the third place? Where it kind of comes from, what the kind of philosophy behind it is, and how you think the Dink and Dine can be that third place for people.
Yeah. So, I mean, the traditional definition, I guess I'm not really too sure. I mean, as I think about it, this is where it comes to mind for me. So, as I mentioned, when we were thinking through this concept, a lot of it was, what are we all looking for and what do we feel like's missing? And, personally, I love to get out of my office and find somewhere to go and work, but Starbucks is too loud and there's too much going on in a lot of places, and it feels distracting. And so when we were putting together our kind of food hall concept, that was the coffee and juice concept,
Yeah.
that we'll have with, again, a lot of like great Wi-Fi, really good mixed seating. And then, let's just say this is like your perfect day. So you're there, you're having coffee, you're getting your work done. At lunchtime, you can go and play a quick little game of pickleball, come back over. We have a concept called the picnic basket, which is my favorite. So you can take a little grab and go type picnic basket and go and sit in the park. We'll have disposable picnic blankets. So that way you can sit down, you just kind of regroup, maybe read a book for a little bit, be able to then meet your friends for happy hour, have dinner, play another game. And when we think through like the price points even of all of these concepts, all of them vary. So when I think about a place that could be your third place, where it feels like home, it feels like you can get all of the things that you need there, you feel comfortable. Again, if you have a dog, you don't worry about leaving your dog home all day. You don't have to worry about, living in Orange County, if I go to a place, it's usually then like a hotel bar that tends to be very, very expensive for the whole day. Where, somewhere like Dink and Dine, you'll be able to come, and there's different price points throughout the entire park. So it doesn't feel like you're breaking the bank if you're there in the
Yeah.
morning and you want to have, some avocado toast and a juice or a coffee, be able to have lunch at one of the other concepts. And if you're looking for something nicer, we certainly offer that. But, it's a place that makes you feel very welcomed and very comfortable, and a place that, you want to take your friends to, and you want to take your family to, and you feel valued and you feel appreciated. And all of those things are things that we're working through. So our loyalty platform is very specific to each guest, and really what it is that they're looking for. So are they a food and beverage person, or are they a pickleball person? And we want to really meet them where they are. And if it's somebody who's maybe never played pickleball, how do we get them involved where they feel comfortable, they're not nervous, to
Yeah.
try a lesson, or to play in front of their friends, and being able to open up that line of communication where, again, it's they're truly not another number to us. And as we build our training materials, our operations manuals, all of the behind the scenes thing, that is what we are really focused on, is how does this make the customer feel, and how does this make our team members feel? And I think that that's something that we had a really long time ago, and it just feels like it's been missing. And so when I think about a place that I want to go to, where it's not the office and it's not at home, but a place that I feel very welcomed and very comfortable, we're trying to build kind of all of those aspects into it. And, those are the things that don't cost a lot of money. We run into, all of the conversations about labor costs and food costs, and, everybody, we need to cut corners. I mean, we just do in some ways, but what we're trying to think through is a new way of doing this, where how do we show our team members and our guests how valued
Yeah.
they are in other ways that doesn't need to cost us money, or doesn't need to cost them more money. So,
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
yep.
Okay. So when we think about your staff and your team members, and you think about how do we appreciate them in ways that doesn't necessarily cost money? How do you think about that? Like where does your mind go when you think about that? This sort of like quote unquote non-transactional loyalty, as they say.
So a little story comes to mind. My one of my first jobs was with a group called Seasons 52, and I was our event sales manager, and I was training in our Costa Mesa location. And our GM at the time, his name was Rickon. Rickon was one of the greatest leaders I'd ever worked for, because the team, like I was just there training. So I hadn't been there for, the years of them building this relationship and what they were doing. And I was so surprised. My gosh, everybody is so loyal that another concept would come to poach them. Somebody else, around South Coast Plaza would say, hey, I'll pay you whatever, $3 more. We'll give you this. And nobody wanted to leave. And I was fascinated with this. And I'm like, what is it with here? Even still now, I go back, and some of those same team members, this was probably 10 years ago or something, are still there. So he's not, but they've really built this loyalty. And what I had noticed was, we would do our pre-shift and we would talk about, things that were happening in our team members' lives. We had somebody who was going through, they had just lost their house in a fire.
Yeah.
And, Rickon was bringing us all together of, is there a way that we can support them? Can we do like a little group donation? Is there any clothes that we can give them, where it didn't feel, transactional? It just felt like he was there to bring us all together and make sure that we had each other's backs. And so, when we would get crazy busy, we would be like, if like Rickon took off his sport coat and got on the line, we're like, oh, it's going down. Like, we all need to really be like all hands on deck, because as a leader, he was leading by example, and he was showing us that, it's getting really busy, but I'm not here to bark at you to get moving. I'm here to take my jacket off, jump on the line, help you out. At the end of the night, we'll talk about it if, there was whatever mistakes that were happening, but it was constantly, he was reminding us, support one another. I'll support you. I'll be there for everything. And that was something that we built a family, and the support that everybody had of, just knowing that if you were having a tough day, it didn't feel like you were going to go into work and get, just walked all over. And those things of, I think, that culture and that leadership, and the leadership by example, and being able to, to be vulnerable and honest and understanding what everybody's going through and still be supportive of that, just those things don't cost you anything. And you more than anybody know the cost of turnover. And the dedication and the loyalty we had, because it came from the top down, was just remarkable. So I think of stories like that from my past and the people who really inspired me, that those are the types of things that we want to hold true to. And I know our entire team has hundreds of stories like that. That's what we talk about internally when we're thinking through, how are we doing these training programs? What kind of benefits are we giving? What does that look like? What's important to college students? Can we do, a book stipend? Can we do, certain things if their GPA is at a certain level? There's other perks that we add in. So it's what's important to the people who are working with us and working next to us. And I think it's kind of like the same thing with our loyalty platform. It's very specific to what that person is looking for. And, we don't look at this as a transaction. We look at this as a human to human interaction. And that's, what's at the forefront of how we're making our decisions.
Okay, interesting. Well, I mean, I guess, tell us about your unique take on the loyalty program then.
So like I mentioned, it's very specific to like what it is that you're looking for. So we went through so many demos with so many loyalty platforms, and I won't.
Had a few of them on the pod probably.
And I won't name any of them out of the ones who didn't do a great job, but I did see some of them in RLC, and I was like, nope, we're not. Nope, no, don't even try to get me. No. You didn't even call us back. You call me back when I'm, a consultant and doing huge national brands, but when I'm just like one little pickleball, like, no. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So, the group that we landed on when we were talking to them about this theory of how do we make this really important and really valuable to what that particular guest is looking for, they were so excited, and they were like, oh, here's all these great ideas. So if we're doing pickleball, we can do what kind of feels like maybe a membership in the morning, but it isn't. But it's just, you have certain perks, because the pickleball player who wants to play indoors between, 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. aren't probably the same guest that's going to be coming, Friday nights at 9. So how do we give them what it is that they're looking for? So they're looking for inexpensive court time. They're probably wanting to grab a coffee or a burrito or something to go. They're probably looking for, the same consistency of, I want to come Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. and know that this is the court that I have. So we want to, have those conversations. Our app is going to be interactive with our guests, so we can understand, like, what is it that you're looking for? So when they sign up on the platform, it isn't just put in your name and your email address so we can start, pushing you marketing and all these like promotions. It's tell us your interests. What are you looking for? Even some things, we've talked about, are you single? Are you looking to meet, other people in the pickleball world? Because there's a lot of really fun events now that people are doing, singles meet and greets and finding their significant others because they have this love for pickleball. And, again, it's that kind of fun social aspect. So So we want to be able to understand that, hear that, and then our marketing team is just absolutely phenomenal. So then being
Yeah.
able to build the right messaging and the right thing to what somebody's looking for.
See, I love that because the way I think about it is, it can be very transactional loyalty programs. Like
Yeah.
spend X dollars,
Yeah.
you get X reward, you get Y reward rather.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very coupon focused effectively, and it's very discount focused. It's like we
Correct.
give you discounts for your loyalty. And I'm like, it's not really kind of like how I would think about it in the sense that you're talking about like, what other kind of more interesting data can we use to engender a type of loyalty?
Mm-hmm.
If we know that you're single and we have like our sort of drinking meets or whatever, whatever kind of thing you're running, but it's like there is value in that. There's a value in that data, obviously, but also like it's a type of non-transactional kind of data. And I think this is something I talk to a lot about people on this pod, which is like, how do we get past the couponing of like loyalty programs, the
Yeah.
discounting of loyalty programs? Because I feel like it's definitely an American thing. So as a foreign person in this country,
Yeah.
I definitely can say this, but it's like, I guess because Americans is the home of coupon culture. I say this a lot in the pod. It's like if you ever watched The Simpsons back in the day, it was like Patty and Selma were cutting coupons out of like magazines, and I feel like when we think of loyalty programs, we think of discounts.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so much more you can do. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think people look at, say, Chase Sapphire Reserve and Ultimate Rewards and kind of think that's a discount program. It's like, no, they put loads of kind of what I would consider like relatable benefits
Sure.
into the program
Absolutely.
for me that I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I get a bit of a discount in Uber, but they also give me opportunity to like have access to sort of, or American Express has like the Resi events and the whatever else, you know what I
Yep.
mean? It's like, oh, I can go do those. And I think about that a lot because I feel like when I think of restaurants, it's like I'm only doing this loyalty program to get a free Chipotle. Do you know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, give me the free smoothie. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, like you can use the data in smarter ways to engender a non-transactional loyalty. That's why I keep emphasizing the phrase non-transactional loyalty. It's like for anybody listening, because it's really leaning into what you're saying. It's like, no, there are things you can do to motivate people to use your business without making it feel like you're giving them a discount, which is what
Correct.
I think the overarching view in the marketplace for loyalty is today, which I'm very delighted to hear that you are
Yeah.
eschewing, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like I mentioned, that's all that way of thinking is kind of throughout the fibers of the business where, we have that, of course, for our customers, but then also then for, our team members. So it's like, all of these, and even our investors, everything that goes into this. I have one of my favorite books is called Conscious Capitalism. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's
Adding that to our book list, we've like had a million recommendations on the
so
spot.
good. It's so good.
Conscious capitalism.
Conscious Capitalism. And I read that, years ago. And it really stuck with me of, things can be done from a good place that's also profitable. And it's just really like, how can you listen to the person in front of you and understand what it is that they need? And again, not make this just feel transactional across the board. So it's like, again, if you're a team member, you're not just coming in to clock in and clock out and get a paycheck. I mean, of course you are, but like, how do we create a better environment where you don't feel like, you have to sit on a bucket behind the line and, eat your sandwich really quickly because, you're not really given a proper break, or, you don't have like, a
Can I
place.
stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
And we will just cut this part out. I think, did I look like I broke up on the screen there? Because what you said after the Conscious Capital book, just kind of the internet got a bit wonky for me.
Oh, I don't
So
think so.
can you just go back and whatever magic
I don't
you
know what
just
I said. I was just talking.
you're riffing on conscious capitalism. Unconscious capitalism.
I don't remember what I said.
Okay, well, I guess I derailed the whole thing. Well, if this did get recorded, I guess I won't know until afterwards, really. You know what I mean? I go back and review minute 23. But for those of you that have made it this far and you heard everything that Monica said, great. I never heard it until I listened. But like, I think, the broader point you're making is, if I'm understanding even through the wonky internet, is you can design good programs and design good practices and design good processes in your company that might not seem like they're the most optimized towards like we got to eke every dollar or every
Yeah.
cent out of this, but they will deliver you a better business because of it. And it's like it's conscious, it's conscientious, it's like mission driven, value driven, and that's an unlock. And I think that's also an important point to make, because I think like more often than not, like I mean, you just look at the sort of earning reports of the large sort of hospitality businesses of the last week or two. Wink,
Hmm.
wink, nudge, nudge. For those listening to this,
Yes.
the date is the 8th of May, so they're kind of in the news at the moment. And it's like, their prices are probably as maxed out as they possibly can go, and they feel like they might have priced out a lot of their consumer base, and they're in the business of offering cheaper alternatives. So it's like, what is their alternative now to like solving this? And I think about that a lot because they maxed it out, and it's like, okay, well, let's take a leaf out of Monica's book here on conscious capitalism and being like, okay, well, like, what else can they do to engender a type of loyalty that's not literally like, I spend $5 in coffee a day, and eventually I'll get enough rewards to get a free coffee on the 15th day or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Sure do.
Which, yeah, blows my mind. I'm very fascinated by loyalty because, like I said, I think there's so much of an onus on discounts and coupons, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. You
Yeah.
could think about it bigger. And I'm delighted to hear that you're doing that.
Well, it's
Um,
the very sad demise of Bed Bath and Beyond. You didn't go there unless you had your 25% off coupon. And I remember even like in college, that's where we would get, all my bedding and all my stuff at. And my parents would be like, well, no, 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 no. We can't go until we get all of our coupons because we can't spend any money there unless we have. So they would go in with like, they'd get coupons from my grandmas and from my uncles and
yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah.
And then, we would drive to one and it was like every item that was scanned, we had something that go with it. And I even remember back then thinking like, this can't be a smart business model. Like there's no way that this is going to last because everybody's just waiting to go. And if you don't have your coupon, like I even remember, I would have extra ones and the person, and like behind me in line would be like, oh my gosh, are you not using that? Can I have that? I'm like, yeah, knock yourself out, because they
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want to do a transaction without the coupon. And I feel like it's just a bad way to train people to think like you're just then a discount brand. And I don't think
yeah.
it is to be. I think people are looking for the connection and they're looking for somebody who values the money that they're spending there, because money's tight for everybody. And, we think too about, kind of going back to like the third place of, one thing that I mean, I know certainly like I experience this. I know most of my friends and family do that, when you're going out for an event or something, let's just say it's somebody's birthday and you're going to, a steakhouse dinner, and you have one side of the table that's ordering a bunch of bottles of wine and appetizers and all of that. And you might have a couple people on the other side who have a really tight budget. And watching all of this happen is just making them so anxious and so stressed out, because they know that when that bill comes, it's going to be split equally between everybody, because
Yeah.
nobody's going to figure out like, oh, well, Sally only had a salad and a glass of water, and, Jim had, $200 worth of whatever. And the anxiety that can give to groups of friends, and then people who don't want to go out and celebrate birthdays when, it shouldn't be about that. But it unfortunately is, we think about that too, of like
the worst.
in our like even like payment side of things, how do we utilize the technology partners that we have, where we can very easily do, split tabs, and you can keep yours open, but it doesn't have to be on this one. And, if you wanted to go over to the picnic basket and grab a couple bottles of wine to bring over to everybody, or a charcuterie board or something, because you're the one who has the budget for it, but you want to share with everybody, then perfect. So, we really try to think through, again, all of those moments of life that can feel, probably not as ideal as I think that we can help create. So those are, again, things that we think about, is how do we, not even from like a loyalty standpoint, but again, like the transaction side of when somebody's using their credit card and paying for their bill, how do we make it so they feel comfortable and they want to come back and they're excited about going to the birthday party, because they know that, they can come and have a couple drinks and have an appetizer and be there and be present and have fun, and not have to worry about, the equal split bill of the sit down fancy steakhouse. But we will. So,
well, well, when I'm in Mesa, Arizona, I will have to try it. and then I'll go on Google reviews. Where do people care about reviews these days? Where does Yelp? Where do I go now to care about my reviews?
Probably still Yelp. That's a great question. I don't look at reviews as a everyday consumer, honestly, but probably Yelp. I would still say, yeah. I don't know if
Yeah, I
people
have no
Google
idea.
much anymore, but I don't know. Good question.
I saw a very funny comedy sketch last night, and the guy was like, "Who are the people leaving 3-star reviews? Like why are you so middling? Like, who are you to leave a 3-star review? You either leave a 1 star, or you leave a 5-star. Like, what
That's
energy
right.
do you
You're
have?"
right. Yeah.
And I was like laughing, and I was like, "Yeah, that's definitely it. Like, who? Yeah, bizarre. Yeah, that's pizza, or something. It's bizarre." I'm glad we're in that kind of post era phase, like where even Uber and these things don't really care if you leave a 5-star review anymore. It's like whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the guy got me from A to B. I'm alive. Or go 5 stars. You know what I mean? It's like whatever. This doesn't mean anything. Or maybe it does. Who knows? But here, I think it's quite an entrepreneurial journey you've had as well. Like, I mean, I know you got partners, but I mean, like, you're still an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And I mean, 2.5 years, like 2.5 years, is a long time to like be in the slog, so to speak.
Mhm.
Like, it's like if you're a technology entrepreneur, you get a website stood up in a week, and you're like, all right, let's get some leads. And it's,
Right.
it's like growth hack. You can't really growth hack like think and dine. You know what I mean? The concept is
No.
so like kind of thought out, like the way you're talking about loyalty, the way you're talking about how should people experience the space, the different types of people coming in, the different type of experiences people can have. I mean, I guess, like kind of where I'm going with this is like, you know, it's quite an investment emotionally for
Yeah.
you. I mean, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, it's because even like, when people talk about like opening like a sort of like a chain restaurant in like New York, I had an entrepreneur on the pod here recently. And he's like, oh, I can find a space in New York City and open in 6 months. Like in Miami, it could be like 2 years, but like in somewhere like New York City, you can open a store in 6 months. And
Mhm.
you're like 2.5 years. I mean, that's quite an enormous commitment, but also demands an enormous amount of conviction from you.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's been I mean, it's been a journey. I mean, this isn't my first company for sure. I do probably fall into the serial entrepreneur category,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love it. Like sometimes I do wonder, like, gosh, why do I do this to myself? Like, even something as simple of the other day, I was redoing my health insurance. I'm like, this is wild that I've been paying for my own health insurance for what, 8 years now, and like I haven't had somebody give me my every 2 week paycheck in that long, and and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, like I don't think I could ever go back, once you kind of, experience the other side of it. But it definitely, but it doesn't feel like an uphill battle. The thing that I would say is probably the two and a half most important things are definitely the who you surround yourself with. So on the Dink and Dine side, there are four main partners within this. Dave and I, like I mentioned, started it and then brought in extra people kind of as we were continuing to grow. Our advisory team is just remarkable. And then, my Eustress team has, moved over to really help build all this out. And, I have had, and, Eustress is 100% woman owned, woman ran, woman everything. And the trenches that we've been through together over the last, 7-ish years, and the relationship that we've built that is so deep and so pure that I know at the end of the day, they have my back no matter what, and they know that I have theirs no matter what. So when
Yeah.
we are, creating all this for Dink and Dine, and we're putting, everything we have into it, it doesn't feel like we're out on a limb by ourselves, or we're, just constantly getting beat down. We really support one another, and have a lot of fun doing it, frankly. We were out of Mesa for 8 days a couple weeks ago, and Christy, who's on my marketing side, her and I were out there, and we had an absolute blast. We went to Chicken and Pickle, and we went to a comedy show, and we did just all these great things. It was like, let's just also enjoy each other's company while we're trying to really change the world with a lot of things that we're doing. And so it is a lot. I will say I also do sleep like 10 hours a night, so I
Nice.
I don't,
Jealous.
you know, I really don't like, what do they say, like burn from both ends, where it's like, you kind of have to like put everything you have into it and work these insane hours. And, I think that you have to take care of yourself first and foremost, because, you can't pour from an empty cup, like everybody always says. And that is really, really, really true. And I know that I won't be a good partner to the rest of the team if I'm, hangry or tired or cranky or whatever it is. So I know
Yeah.
that if I'm taking care of myself and, and really doing the things that still bring me a lot of personal joy outside of work, then I know that I can be a better partner and do all of these things. And then it doesn't feel like it's a grind, and it doesn't feel like, gosh, you're just putting so much in just for, the carrot at the end. The whole
Yeah.
process we're doing has been really fulfilling and really enjoyable. And, I love to give back and work with other women, especially women entrepreneurs. And
That's what I was going to ask you about. Yeah.
I know that if I haven't experienced it myself, then like, who am I to try to help and understand where they're going from? Like, I know we all want to win the lottery, and it's funny because I still buy lottery tickets and I love scratchers. I actually like have some sitting on my desk, but
That's actually iconic.
like, I still know that if I were to actually win big, I would then feel guilty, because I feel like then it would take me from not learning all the things I'm supposed to learn in order to be a better supporter of everybody who on
Yeah.
their journey. So I don't want the shortcut. I mean, I do, don't get me wrong. Like, it would be great if I just woke up one day and like, but I know how important all of the things that you learn along the way are in order to help everybody else, because you can't, you have to experience it, and you have to know how hard it is to be able to really empathize and listen to somebody else and try to support them on their journey. But those are the things that truly do make me happy, and that's what I really do enjoy. So when I feel burnt out, or I feel like, gosh, why am I doing this to myself, then that's kind of what I go back to think of, and knowing how happy that side of it makes me.
Totally. And it is amazing that you make time for yourself. I think that's the thing. I think like burnout's real. I mean, to be focused on launching something for 2.5 years, I mean, you could drive yourself crazy as well. You know what I mean? If you were just 24/7, nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. But it also gives you time to like think about like young female entrepreneurs as well, which I know is quite a passion of yours. And it's amazing. It's remarkable because it's like you are taking ownership yourself. You're like, oh, I wouldn't be doing this were I not have walked in that path before, And like, what was your moment of like, what was your moment of going, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, I would love to kind of get more involved in this. Like, did you have like a mentor that was somebody like that to you, or it was just one day you were like, I'm gonna go help some young ones?
um, a little bit of all of that, probably. I do have, I mean, my mentor name's Helen. She is just amazing. She's definitely my like solid woman crush. Of she just, the way that she, takes care of, her team and her family and herself, and what she represents in the world, and how good she is that, even like, her and I go out for dinner or drinks, and she hands out $100 bills to our servers and the valet and people in our industry, and really takes the chance to get to know them and support them. And as I've watched her over the years, I've just really just kind of picked up like all of the things of just listening, of the things that inspire me. And I
Yeah.
get a lot of my kind of tips and tricks from her of how to be a better leader, where, even to when I have actually, after our call, I have one of my mentee meetings, and we usually start by saying, is this a day that you want advice, or do you just need to vent? Do you just need to kind of tell me how you're feeling and what's going on, and just have somebody who listens in a totally judge-free zone? And and what I've found is a lot of times too, yeah, they want some advice here and there, but they just want somebody who understands, and somebody who they can just feel free to word vomit all of the things that they're feeling. And at the end of it, they're like, you know what? I actually got myself where I needed to be. I think I've solved my problem myself. I feel good. I'll text you tomorrow and like let you know. And then we'll usually come back to it and kind of, talk through like what it is, about how they're feeling and what we can help them out with. But a lot
Yeah.
of times it's just somebody there to listen. And like I said, in a judge-free zone. And I think from that kind of starts as a friend before it was like a mentor thing. So just think over the years, I had a lot of friends who needed somebody to confide in, and then it would turn into advice. And then as I built, these different companies and, these different things out in the world, then it was kind of like one day I woke up and the conversation shifted from, now I don't need your advice about my boyfriend, but now I need your advice about my business. And then it continued to grow. And I do a lot of, like what we call like wine whiteboarding sessions where
Nice.
we get together with somebody who has a business idea, and if they're not paying me, then I'm usually like, let's make this just a really fun space. Let's spend 5 hours and have great food and have some cocktails or have some wine and really whiteboard this puppy out. And it's just one of the funnest things. And we talk all the ideas, and they can get all their brain dumping out, and we just have this like really fun flow of what it is they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. And I had done one of those just in my living room with a girlfriend about 8 years ago, and her company is really taken off, and we always talk about how fun that night was. And so that's just kind of now, when it's not a work thing, that's why we do our wine whiteboarding sessions, and it's just great. I love it.
I know, that's awesome. And it kind of creates that sort of, greenhousing environment. I always like to use the phrase attorney of greenhousing and brown housing. Like, how do you greenhouse an idea? If you think about it, it's like you got the nub, and how do you give it enough, like, kind of an environment to kind of like help kind of, grow the idea, so to speak, as opposed to brown housing, which is the most obvious metaphor visual you can get for literally shitting on somebody's idea. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do you help people, encourage people in that? And I think like that's such a fun way of thinking about it, which is, like, yeah, like we'll have a few cocktails or a few drinks, we'll whiteboard, we're productive, it'll be fun. And like making people feel like it's fun, and it's like that kind of like, permissible environment to kind of be yourself, you know what I mean? And really truly kind of like, they must love that. I mean, I guess my question is like, where do you find them? Do you love, like, do they get filtered to you? Do they get referred to you? Do people like reach out to you? Like, how does one become a mentee?
All of the above. I mean, it's usually like, a couple lately have been because I've done some personal investments. And so some have been a mutual friend of a friend who are looking for investors. And so, they'll say, hey, let's get together for dinner. And, they want to talk about their business and kind of where they've been. And so as I'm sitting there hearing it, I kind of get into business mode, and I see, usually then there's a lot of holes in it, and there's a lot of like, oh, and I know that they're probably walking down a path that maybe I've made the same mistake or somebody else has. And I just want to, be honest of like, hey, do you want a little bit of advice while you're doing this? And usually they're like, yeah, totally. And so then the conversation ends up shifting into, how can I help, maybe paint a different picture of something that I've seen or, experience personally of, here's a different way to look at it. Or maybe if you're approaching investors, maybe it isn't good to go into private equity right now because of all these other factors. So it's just, I think it's just a different mindset. And I think people, for the most part, kind of appreciate the extra advice. And then before that, it turns into, or after that, then it's like, we end up, building a true relationship. And, and then it's just, hey, one of these, the next day, hey, I thought about all these things we talked about last night. Would you be open to doing this like wine whiteboarding thing? And then, again, it's just, it feels like we can help develop more of a true friendship and a true relationship. That's, again, something that's really valuable. But then I also am a part of, it's called Gleam Network. And so Gleam, I've been doing that now for a couple years. And so that's just another great way that, they kind of pair you up with somebody who might be going through the same things, that it's very kind of like, obviously it's in our industry, but specific on, if it's somebody who was in a role that maybe I held before or looking to start something on their own. So I think that they do a great job pairing people.
I am triggered because this is not the first time Gleam's had a shout out on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, have you come across Amy Hom before?
I know of her. We tend to run in the same crowds, but I haven't met her. I don't believe.
She was bigging up Gleam as well on the pod a couple weeks ago, and I'm actually at NRA. What's NRA in 2 weeks' time, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a sizzle and spin for Gleam, fundraiser for Gleam, and I actually got Ruhan, my podcast partner in crime, who's going. He's doing the spin class on the Sunday morning of the NRA, with all proceeds going to Gleam. So there you go. I was like, why do I know Gleam? I was like, in my head, I was like, quickly, I was like, what's Gleam, 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 Gleam. So
yeah,
there you go.
Really amazing at what they do and how they structure everything, and the mentees that I've had in the past and have now are just, like I said, you end up becoming, friends after it all. And it gives people a safe place to be vulnerable. And, I have no skin in the game with it. I just want them to ask all the questions and see how we can help, and, just be there to support them. I think that's kind of it, as simple as that. It doesn't have to cost you anything. It's just your time and being there and being available. And if they need your advice, making sure that you're doing your best to, think of it through their lens, and, and just being a support system. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Monica, look at the time. We have come this far. This was awesome. Honestly, I'm invigorated hearing all your story, frankly. Honestly, I think what you're doing with Ding and Dine is going to be phenomenal. I am very excited for you. I think you have absolutely captured the zeitgeist. I absolutely think you've captured that sort of almost like a millennial mindset, of seeking that kind of extra experience, that it's not necessarily just like a transactional restaurant that I want to go to. It's like that third space. Like the amount of things you said here that really related to me were phenomenal. And I hope people listening to this episode are like, oh my God, Monica, you're going to absolutely crush it. I'm sure you're going to have supporters on the sidelines. So thanks so much for coming on the pod.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Okay.